be trying to remember everything from undergrad. But I'm only half kind of into this week's one videos, but do we need to know all the acids? And or did you say no in one of your videos?
Like know all the acids and bases.
Yes.
Let me, what I remember, so he typically doesn't ask like these super like in depth, like pure just memorization. He doesn't ask a ton of just straight pure memorization questions. Let me quick pull up through my 8 million files. There it is. So as far as like titration and stuff goes, what gets really confusing about titration and like the acids and bases and stuff, honestly, is more like the math side of it, but we don't have to do any of that. I think acids and bases, is that chapter 3? Sec. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Acids and bases, pH and buffers. Part of chapter 1, I think, still.
Yeah, I think it is introduction to.
Yeah, so like he throws some examples on here. I mean, to be completely honest, I don't recall him ever asking, like he's not going to ask a question like which of the following is an acid or which of the following is a base. The kind of questions that he'll ask would be something more along the lines of, you have this acid, what is its conjugate base? So for example, something like this, H2CO3, he'll give you like this kind of format and then ask you what is the conjugate base. And you have to understand that in acid, in its form, an acid, like what the definition of an acid is, that it's a proton donator. It said it's going to donate protons. So when you put an acid into water, it gives away its protons and you get a free hydrogen, and it's what's called its conjugate base. You can think of it like it's like its base pairing, where if you were to put more of this HCO3 into that same water that you put the acid into, if there's more conjugate base, it's going to grab onto these hydrogens and make the reaction go the other way and form more of the weak acids.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So those are the kind of questions that you'll get, more along those lines. And then like understanding the difference between a weak acid and a strong acid, understanding like what a conjugate base is. Like he'll ask a question like with the equations and stuff. A lot of the times with the equations, he'll ask like which of the following is the Henderson-Hasselbach equation, and you just need to know what the equation looks like, and then maybe like what the equation actually tells you. So like for the Henderson-Hasselbach equation, like it relates everything like to pH, like pH, pKa, and then concentrations of the buffer system. It's like the buffer being the acid and the conjugate base is what creates a buffer. So where it's a buffer is kind of the idea behind it, like what a buffer is really just kind of a way to maintain and balance the pH, where you have some type of acid and its conjugate base, so then they go back and forth sharing the hydrogen, either the hydrogen being free or the hydrogen being held onto, to maintain a pH balance. That's a lot of words. Does that all kind of make sense?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns?
Do you have good ways to remember the different functional groups, or which ones we really need to know well?
Yeah, so functional groups. Biochem. I think it's, nope. Here we goes. This is what I did, helping myself to remember and learn the functional groups. And to be completely honest, a big part of learning the functional groups isn't necessarily like trying to memorize them right out the gate. It's really kind of focusing and paying attention to the different reactions and stuff that you start to see as you go through the class. So in a couple of chapters, you'll get into like enzymes, and you'll see different, like the last word of the enzyme. You'll see like decarboxylase or hydroxase, like oxidation reductions, like stuff like that, where like the enzymes correlate to those specific groups. Can I? Wait. So this is kind of how I started out. Let's see if I can. Sorry, let me redo this. So I think another thing that gets really confusing with a lot of the science courses, and you'll notice this in all of your courses, with a lot of the terminology and the stuff, there's a lot of AKAs to say the exact same thing, which can get really, really confusing. Which, as you go through material and stuff, I like to keep running kind of like a vocabulary sheet where I try and look and I try and figure out, okay, like what kind of stuff that there is that gets said over and over and over again. And then if there's other names for it, and like I'll literally keep a Word document saved to each like on my folders, or like on the PowerPoints and stuff themselves or the slides themselves. And I'll write in all of the different AKAs. So that way when I go back and I study, I can figure that out. But really with the functional groups, he'll ask questions about a decent chunk of them, but honestly, like the most, like the ones that you need to concern yourself the most about are the amides or the aminos. Primary amine is very similar to that. The hydroxyl group you'll always get asked about. I don't think it's not the carboxylate, but this one, the carboxylate, or he'll just call it, and the AKA is just a carboxyl, like that. And like those are the ones that you're really going to see kind of over and over and over again. Occasionally ester bonds as well. But it's more kind of understanding rather than like trying to memorize this structure, because he doesn't really give you structure type questions. And honestly, if he does, it's like 1 out of the 50 test questions. And personally, this is when the kind of like the game of time versus like effort versus reward, where like, is it worth it to put in 4 hours of my time writing these out to try and memorize them for literally like 2% on my entire exam? Not really. And this is where kind of you kind of have to start to think, like, gauge your time and decide what's like the most worth it. But methyl as well they'll use. But so like the way that I remember these, I'll go through and I'll like these ones specifically that I've highlighted. Those are the big ones that you'll want to remember. And you'll start to see these over and over and over and over again as you go through like the reading the material. And it's helpful every single time that you read like a specific structure, like a chemical or something in like the book, or like when you're going through the videos, take a second to like look at it. And typically in the names of a lot of these compounds, you'll see the different functional groups like stated inside of them. Let me see if I can find a good example. Probably now that I'm I know that they're in here, but now that I'm looking specifically for one, well, here's a good one. Even just amino acids, right? If we look at the general structure of an amino acid is called an amino acid because it has an amino group. Like that's the whole reason why it's called an amino acid. And then just like, and then you look at what other groups does it have? And these are the kind of things that because you see these over and over and over again, these are the groups that you'll want to remember. You have the amino group, you have a carboxyl group, and C-double-O-, what's another way to say a carbon with 2 oxygens? CO2, right? So a carboxyl group is literally a carbon dioxide. And we hopefully, from like our general knowledge, we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide. So we know at some point, like different molecules and some sort of molecules and stuff are going to be giving off carbon dioxide. These carboxyl groups are going to be removed, and they're going to be in the form of carbon dioxide, and then that will travel in the blood, and then we'll eventually breathe it out. So it's looking at stuff like that, and then you'll still see the names of enzymes later on. That for the carboxyl group, you have a D-carboxylase enzyme and a D-carboxylase enzyme. D, like it removes it. Carboxyl, so it removes the carboxyl, and then ACE just says that it's an enzyme. So it's more that rather than just straight memorizing everything, you try and kind of make as many connections as you can to tie all the material together and see which of these functional groups are being the most used. Look at their names and see if there's something within their name that would give you some sort of clue as to what they do or why they're important. So, for example, another one, the methyl groups, this CH3. Methyl, you'll constantly hear about a reaction called methylation. If we think about methylation is really important in like DNA structures and like building our DNA, activating proteins, that sort of stuff. Methylation is literally just adding on a methyl group. And again, like it's something that kind of the philosophy behind learning is that you have to actively see something and actively recall something anywhere from 17 to 25 times before your brain actually creates new neural pathways, like permanent neural pathways to remember it. So if you have something like this, like an easier chart or something to go through and go over it, it's a lot easier, to really to look at these, to take 10, 15 minutes each day and go over a couple of these. Throw these into Quizlet, like sulfhydryl, and like its general shape and see if you can recognize it. And throw them into Quizlet and spend 5-10 minutes on, like, when you're in the bathroom or whatever, on your phone, because rather than watching TikTok or something for 10, 15 minutes, jump on the Quizlet app. And if you have a Quizlet, if one person makes a Quizlet or you get together with like 6, 7, 8 people and everybody works together to make a Quizlet, then you just sit there and you click through them. And Quizlet has like a quizzing function as well that you can say, did you get it right or did you get it wrong? And then if you got it right consistently, it'll stop giving you that one to guess on or to answer, and it'll start just giving you the ones that you've gotten wrong, so you can just keep reviewing those. That was kind of a lot. Does that help at all a little bit with functional groups and all of that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other specific questions or concerns or complaints? Complaints are just things that you don't understand yet, in my mind. Let me actually do this as well. We will pull something up.
I saw in the group me, someone asked a question. Do we need to memorize all the amino groups?
You mean like the amino acids?
Yes.
By name, yes, not by structure.
Okay.
And with that as well, like there's a whole bunch. If you've been watching my videos, there's a crap ton of different mnemonics to help remember. You can see these are all my videos that I've made. Whole bunch. Come on, computer. Let me find. Oh shoot, what was I gonna open? Yeah, I was gonna do this. And I mention all of, if you are watching my YouTube videos, you'll see that I have a lot of these different mnemonics and stuff that I try and throw out there as much as I can. Dr. Sarkar doesn't typically do mnemonic devices. But stuff like this, where you have like for the essential amino acids, when you see something like this, for example, essential amino acids, essential meaning that our body cannot create them, but we require them for life. So all essential amino acids have to be taken in by eating food. And like the little device to remember all of those is Private Tim Hall. So PVT TIMHALL. The best thing to do now is literally to put yourself into a Word document or something, or actually if you can handwrite it, the evidence shows it's actually much better for long-term memory to write it. But you can literally put it into here and then go through these and try and remember. So like the P, and don't look at this chart and stuff down here when you're doing this, and try and fill this in. So phenylalanine should be valine, tryptophan, if I can spell it, tyrosine, I's isoleucine. One of the L's is going to be leucine, lysine, A, arginine, I think. Yeah. H, the histidine, and then M, the methionine. Yeah. So like if you do this kind of raw memories, if you need to do like this kind of raw memorization, which in this case you kind of do, if you just do this 5 or 6 times, honestly, if you do this 5 or 6 times and you're able to get it from memory, I would do this like 4 or 5 times in a row. And then from there, every 2-3 days, jump back and try and do this again and see if you can remember it. And that will super solidify in your brain exactly what those amino acids are, at least the essential ones. And then like for the non-essential ones, again, I used to have a mnemonic for this, but I don't remember what it is. I might have it saved in my notes somewhere. I'm really, really big on if you can make up different words. So like for this is A, like 3 A's, a C, G, G, P, S, T. This is actually a trick that I sometimes do if I'm coming. So look up a words with friends cheat. I love this because it'll literally put together words for you. And you can take all, like if you need to just raw memorize something quickly. So we have 3 A's. That's loading. Sorry, I've got like 8 million things open on my computer, so it's a little slow. Let me see if I can close some stuff. Help this. Right now I'm working on video. I'm working with Dr. Tate to record physiology videos for the YouTube channel, which hopefully will be, hopefully I'll finish all of those this try, and also Biochem 2 videos. I'm halfway done with all the Biochem 2 videos, so you guys will have all those next try. So A C G G P S T. Let's see if we can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is 9. You can go through and figure out words. So like start with pasta, and let's see, P, S, T, and then 2 A's. So you could be something, yeah, it might be a little bit misspelled, but for our non-essential amino acids, pasta cage, and like make some sort of mnemonic like that, and then practice it a couple of times. And like, it might seem really kind of stupid, but it's these kind of things that when you're starting out here and like in the moment when you get a question, you'll get questions like, which of the following is an essential amino acid, or which of the following is not an essential amino acid, or which of the following is a non-essential amino acid. You'll get asked questions like that. And in the moment like that, if you can think, oh, pasta cage, and then you go through it and like valine is on there, you're like, oh, there's no V or anything, and you get right there. You don't have to actually have every single one of them perfectly memorized and perfect recall. You can remember some of the mnemonic devices to help you get through that. And then like there's the different types of amino acid, the different like amino acid groups, like the ketogenic ones. You have mnemonics, Lucy, lies. Should capitalize this. Lucy lies to get the keys. Lucy is Lucy lies, leucine, Lucy, lysine, lie, keys, ketogenic. The aromatic ones, these are the ring structures. So the ring structure amino acids are phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan. Your pal Tyrone will trip you in the ring. The sulfur containing, for his class, he only does cysteine and methionine because technically cysteine is just 2 cysteines bound together. But like to be an MCC or to be an MC, you have to have sol. So stuff like that, just like anything you can use to remember this. And this is this that I have right here. This is actually these are my board, part 1 board prep notes. This contains all of the stuff that you'll see on part 1 boards. All the glorious biochemistry that there is. So yeah. Does that help a little bit with amino acids, kind of what to expect, what to look at?
Yes, thank you.
Also, something really cool that I've been messing with just this flash try. Have anybody of you ever used ChatGTP?
No, but
Yes.
I've heard of it.
Let me see if I can get the. They changed it. So this is one of the coolest things that I learned about this try, or actually end of last try. So first of all, you can meal plan with this thing, and it is amazing. Give you easy crockpot dinner ideas or something because we're students, and your diet will turn to garbage if you let it because you're so busy. But I can literally write in here, write me a practice test going over amino acids. So bam, it'll give you specific questions. If I want something more specific, write me a multiple, and even gives you the answers. Write me a multiple choice practice test covering functional groups, biochemistry. So, and like this will give you different types of questions. You can do this and you can just kind of mess with it and kind of change a little bit the way that you ask the question. Or like this one, or like go through these questions and look at and pick out the ones that you think fit with the material. It's like the functional group present in alcohols such as ethanol is alkyl groups, amino groups, aldehyde group, or hydroxyl group. It's going to be D, a hydroxyl group, because that's the OH. The alcohols, the ethanol is also the OH group. So you can get immediately all of these like practice type questions in order to review and to study, which I think is absolutely amazing. I don't know if I wish I'd thought about this like 2 years ago when I started tutoring, because it would have made my life writing questions so much easier. Okay. Any other specific questions, concerns, thoughts, ideas? Anything at all? Maybe not necessarily about biochem, but about the program itself, about school itself, grad school, what it's like coming to campus, anything like that.
I guess any tips on adjusting when moving? Like, how do you adjust to like a new environment?
Like, are you like talking about moving to Dallas?
Yeah, yeah, because I live nowhere near Dallas, so it'll be like I guess like a big change because I'm from like I guess like a smaller town, like a smaller city. So I guess moving to a bigger city, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing is the one of the coolest things about chiropractic school that differentiates it from so many of the other medical schools is that we are not graded competitively. Like there is no like in other medical schools, in dental schools and all sorts of programs, they pit the students against each other. And it's like only this number of students can get an A, only this number of students can get a B, only this number of students are allowed to pass each course. And so it's a constant competition in other medical programs. We don't have that here. If every single person in this program got a 4.0 GPA the entire way through the program, like that would be like completely understood. They'd have to change the program and make it harder, but whatever. But I mean, like it's possible for every single person to do really well and to succeed, both academically and also socially, because we don't have the same kind of butting heads against everybody. And when you get to school or get to Dallas, especially, a lot of your life is going to revolve around school, revolve around the program. Um, Especially when you guys first get here, if you are here already with try one, or if you are get here try two, there are so many social opportunities for you guys. Like every single day at lunch at noon, there are clubs that meet. There are clubs that meet after hours. There are like chiropractic social events, kind of stuff that people do. There's a lot of like just a lot of stuff in general. And on top of that, like work now, the try before you guys was really, really cool. They had a couple of people started actually um like doing teams meetings like this just randomly to study and to get to know each other. So they'd be like, okay, teams meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. And they'd have like 15, 20 people jump on teams, and everybody would just kind of be studying together, working on stuff. And if you had specific questions and whatever about stuff, you could chat and ask people. And really that helped. Like when everybody started to get here for this trimester, they knew each other a little bit better. They knew each other's faces and like had already had conversations with each other. And that kind of helped form like a little bit more of camaraderie and togetherness within the try, and kind of helped people like notice and have friends when they got here. That's just a couple of different ideas. And like I think that for me personally, I've lived in 5 different states now, 4 or 5 different states and 2 countries. So like moving can be scary, obviously, but it leaves and creates a lot of opportunity for growth. And it all depends on how you approach it. With school and with everything in life, you get out exactly what you put in. If you put in a half effort, you get back a half result. If you go in and moving to a new place, a new experience, saying like, I want to make this the greatest time of my life, and you work to and constantly have that goal in mind, like it will become the greatest time of your life. So it's just keeping and focusing on that mindset.
the Henderson-Hasselbach equations.
Yeah, hit me with it.
Well, like, is that something we really need to like dive into, or do we just need to kind of know like the general aspects of it?
General aspects. You want to know, for example, like you'll want to know what the equation looks like. So like I usually kept an equation sheet for a lot of my classes. Like, and every time an equation would pop up, I would write it down. I don't know if I try one. I was still like figuring and organizing and figuring everything out. So they're not quite as organized. The further I get into the program, the more like organized and clear and concise everything becomes. But we were just at the Henderson-Hasselbach equation. Let me see if it'll load.
And then would you mind explaining like the components of it? Because it's just a bunch of like letters and stuff like that. So just so like we know
Yeah.
what each thing stands for.
Yeah, so here's the Henderson-Hasselbach equation. So literally what I would do with these, with any time that you see an equation, because you want to understand what the equation actually means. So I would write the equation, write the name, write the equation itself, and then I would literally do this to the side. H plus, do A minus.
I don't know if you're sharing your screen, but it's not showing for us.
Oh, my bad.
No problem.
Let me share that. Good now? Sweet.
Yes, thank you.
HA and then the KA. And it literally equals. So, and this is the beautiful thing about living in the internet age, is you don't actually have to know anything to learn something. So like if I can write into Google Henderson-Hasselbach equation, what does H plus mean? So you understand that the symbol H plus stands for hydrated hydronium ion. So then that can be a little bit confusing, but like keep coming down here and you can start to find the different resources for stuff. And you can adjust your question and kind of find the different stuff. But right now, this is the H plus. This is the, anytime you see brackets means concentration. So something like bracket and then something else here, that equals concentration of something. H plus, this is the concentration of hydrogen ions. This is concentration of conjugate base, concentration of the weak acid. And then Ka specifically is representing remember the acid dissociation constant. And like if you don't know what that means, so acid dissociation constant, this is telling us kind of whether an acid is weak or if it's strong. So it's when we put that specific acid into water, how much of it dissolves, like how many hydrogens come off of that acid. If it's a weak acid, not as many hydrogens will come off and you're left with a higher concentration of the weak acid still remaining in the solution. If it's a strong acid, you're going to have more hydrogens come off and you're going to have a much higher concentration of hydrogen ions. And the acid dissociation constant is something you can solve by having all of these numbers. And typically, like, this is something that, though, like, they have a huge chart with all of the different acids and this is literally a constant, a value that's already known and they'll give to us. So then you could take all of this. So this is what each of those different components represents, like what they are. And then you have to look at, say, okay, what does all of this mean? So from this original equation, you can also derive this equation from it and see the relation above pH. Because we know that pH is specifically the amount of hydrogen ions that are floating around in the solution. And if we have a whole bunch of hydrogen, we have a lower pH. If we have not as much hydrogen, we have a higher pH. And so by rearranging this equation, we can get this equation by doing fancy math stuff and give us these other equations that if we wanted to do math, we then could. But we aren't going to be doing the actual equations, just looking at and recognizing what the equation is and understanding that the Henderson-Hasselbach equation relates the acid dissociation constant. So whether the acid is a strong acid or a weak acid, to the pH to predict what the pH is going to it should be if we were to put that specific acid into water. Does that was a lot, I know, but does that make a little bit more sense or kind of give you an idea of how to tackle this sort of stuff?
Yeah, it does. But just to reinforce, we don't have to worry about like working through that equation though, right? Just knowing it's like relation.
Yeah, exactly. There's not going to be any math equations on these tests. You need to know what the equations are and what they represent, but you don't have to actually do all of the math.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question real quick. It's kind of going back to the amino acids.
Yeah.
So real quick, are the essential amino acids, are they all the non-polar R groups besides glycine? Or
Uh,
hold on. No, it's because I'm noticing, because I have notes like the non-polar R groups. So like
I mean, it
proline,
looks like a
valine,
good looks like a good chunk of them are. So like
right?
Private, Tim, Hall, right?
Mhm.
So we have valine is essential amino acid, isoleucine is, leucine, methionine is. It's like a good chunk of them, but alanine, so the A in Hall is arginine, so that's not
Yeah.
alanine. And proline, the P in this is phenylalanine.
Yeah, yeah.
And glycine. Yeah, so like these ones.
So there's a chunk of essential.
Yeah, those are essential. These three aren't.
Okay.
Yeah, and so this is actually something I recommend that people start to do this now. This takes a little bit more effort on your part and kind of brain power, but the best way to really prepare yourself for exams and for succeeding in this sort of program is trying to get your brain to think more like the professors think, especially after the first couple of quizzes and the first exam. Really pay attention and get an idea of what sort of questions the teacher likes to ask. Every single teacher has a general question structure that they really like to ask questions about. Like Dr. Sarkar loves the questions that of like blah 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 blah, all of the following except, or which of the following is not this. Those are the kind of questions he absolutely loves. So then as you're studying and as you're reading and going through the material, try and make those sort of questions in your head. So for example, if there's these three, he could ask a question just like that. So which of the following non-polar amino acids is not non-essential? And then he'd have glycine, alanine, proline, and valine, like that. And so the way that the question reads looks a little bit confusing. And that's what a lot of people complain about with his tests, is that like the wording, like there's a lot of words and the wording gets jumbled up. But that's because that's how boards asks these types of questions. Dr. Sarkar, I don't know if you know this, Dr. Sarkar actually writes a fair bit of questions for the chiropractic board exams. And I promise you, if you learn the material the way that he has it, you will absolutely ace boards. I realized this going back and tutoring biochem after I'd taken part 1 boards. But Dr. Sarkar, his book and his teaching and everything, the questions that he asks are dead on exactly what boards are going to ask you. So this question, we'll go back to the question. Which of the following non-polar amino acids is not a non-essential amino acid? He could ask this exact same question, these exact same answer choices, but he could be, which of the following, you could say all of the following amino acids are non-essential except, and then you can look same exact answer choices, but glycine, alanine, proline, these are all non-essential. Valine is one that's essential. So like if you can get your brain to kind of start almost like writing and making up practice questions as you go, especially after the first exam, get a general idea of pay attention as you take the test and try and figure out like what kind of patterns you see in the way that he asks questions. And that's what you're going to continue to see from that teacher. And this goes for every single teacher. And so then as you get into the second and the third exam, as you're reviewing and prepping for those, you start to see the different see like the different questions or see like the chunks of material. And you're like, Dr. Sarkar likes to ask questions exactly like this sentence in his book. And as you get better at kind of putting yourself into the professor's brain, it's really, really cool. Well, you'll be sitting down and studying and you're like, that's going to be a question on the test. And then you get to the test and it is a question on the test and you feel really, really cool because you know the answer and you kind of pre-guessed it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
There's one from Suzette in the group chat. I guess basic question, but in the study worksheets, we have a lot of multi-part workout questions. Will we have those in the exam, or is his exam multiple choice?
All multiple choice. Almost every single exam that you'll take at Parker is multiple choice. You will have some classes throw in MACAs, so mark all that apply. But like they'll specifically say MACA on them. And then like rather than having the circle, like round answer boxes equals multiple choice. Square answer boxes equals MACA. And if it does not, if you have square answer boxes, kind of in between square answer boxes.
Can't see your screen.
But the question does not say MACA. Treat it like a multiple choice, not a MACA, because it was probably just a mistake. Yeah, I'm stop sharing my screen with you guys. I'm writing all this out for no reason. There. So if you have round answer, I say round answer boxes, but like, do you guys know what I mean when I say round answer boxes? Like the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably just a mistake on the part of Blackboard and the teacher. So yeah, if you see the round answer boxes, multiple choice, square answer boxes, plus it says MACA in the question itself, that equals a MACA. Good advice. And sometimes like everybody makes mistakes, and Blackboard as well. Like Blackboard is notorious for showing stuff wrong or like stuff not saving correctly and all sorts of BS. And And understand, like, if you do have confusion on questions and stuff like that, answer the question the best that you can, and then message the teacher afterwards. Also, along those same lines, the absolute biggest recommendation I can give you is meet with every one of your teachers one-on-one after an exam. Okay. One of the biggest things that I see, and you'll start to see this in different with different teachers and different like specific individuals in your try, where there will be specific individuals who call out the teachers and go after the teachers and say that the teachers don't care, the teachers don't do whatever, the teachers this, that, and the other thing. I promise you, I know every single one of the professors individually. I would say there's only like one of them, one or two max in the entire DC program that kind of get enjoyment from watching students fail. Every single teacher, and that's not until like deep into the program, so don't even worry about that. So like every single teacher wants you to succeed, and if you go and you meet with them, they are more than happy to go through stuff with you. And I think in almost every single exam that I have reviewed with a teacher, I have gotten points back because either the question itself was confusing or maybe I misunderstood something. And when I walk them through and I explain my thought process and what I was thinking, like what I thought the question said, I would say at least more than half the time, probably like 75% of the time, I get points back. So that's like, and honestly, getting points back, especially in certain exams, getting 2, 3, 4 points back on an exam is the entire difference. That's like an additional, depending on the exam, that's like 1 or 2% of your entire grade, getting that back off of going and meeting with the teachers. So make the time to do it. And then if you do that as well, especially at the beginning of your like at the beginning of the trimesters, you meet with the teachers, and just be super nice to them and show them that you're there to learn and that you care about what they're teaching. They will bend over backwards to help you out and to get you the stuff that you need. And they're much more likely to give you points back in the future if you show that you're trying in their course. A lot of these professors are like researchers and academics first. Especially with the core sciences, a lot of them aren't doctors of chiropractic. And so like these subjects are their life. Like they've dedicated their lives to biochemistry, to microbiology, to like the cells and tissue stuff, to immunology, to all these really, really cool topics. Like that's their entire life. That's what they've dedicated it to. And if you show an interest in that, it makes them so warm and fuzzy on the inside. And they're, like I said, they're willing to do anything they can to help you succeed, which is really, really nice when you have the teachers backing you with everything. So
I have a quick question. I'm assuming it's no, but let's say a whole bunch of students miss a question. Do professors curve it, or because this is a postgraduate course?
Yeah, it depends entirely on the professor as well as the way that the exam is given. So for example, you guys, with everything being online with try one, there is like a 0.01% chance that you will get anything curved. If there is a question that like everybody misses and everybody fails for whatever reason, within a certain margin of of error, the teachers do go back and review those questions. But yeah, so you guys right now being fully online, there won't be a curve. If you're taking all of your tests in person, which is what everybody has moved to, at least for this try, every single other try, everything's in person. More than likely, yeah, you can get curve, or you can have, like, teachers will do like test remediation afterwards with like the top missed questions, and you can get a lot of points back that way. But also on that same note, if there are a lot of teachers that will, this goes again, the plug to go meet with the teacher. A lot of professors will sometimes have bad questions, but they only give points back to the people who go in there and talk to them about it, and then show them like, hey, this was a bad question. The teacher will be like, yeah, you're right, I'll give you points back. And they don't give anybody else points back unless they come in and they talk to them about their test and also say like, hey, this was a bad question. So kind of fun.
Could you elaborate on like a bad question, like one that's like supposed to trip you up or something, or like
Not intentionally. Most of the teachers, they don't ask you questions trying to trip you up or trying to make you get the wrong answer. It can be something like, because a lot of the teachers are like rewriting and putting in new questions. So there are times when like there are technically two correct answers, or technically like you can read a question and like none of the answers are really correct. So it's just kind of like stuff like that, where there might be like one word or something off that makes it so that nothing is correct. And that's what I mean by bad questions. Just like questions that kind of slip through the cracks, that like don't make sense, or like maybe they read really confusing. And if you bring that up with the teacher and they read it and like, yeah, you're right, that is kind of confusing because of whatever, then like that's what's considered a bad question. You're not going to get a lot of questions that are intentionally meant to screw with you. Like there's 99% of the time there is a correct answer. Some teachers, Dr. Sarkar does this a little bit, where there's like two answers that could be correct, but there is one that is definitely more correct than all of the others. And when you get a question like that, you'll know. We're like, oh, okay. And that's why it's important to read the whole question and read all of the answer choices, not just click the first one. Continue, like read through all of the answer choices, because there might be one that's like sort of correct and you click it as soon as you see it, but there's another one later on that's definitely more correct.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Let me actually do this real quick. I'm gonna stop the recording here and then say